Two opposing forces, created and meant to set all things in balance, sparked a battle that would change the very face of existence itself. In their possession was the multiverse, an endless expanse of universes filled with the potential for an infinite number of possibilities. Whoever truly possessed it could mold all existence according to their will. Balance was meant to take control, but Nihilum acted first to betray fate. Nihilum created an organization of upper gods known as the Dark Nebula, and orchestrated a plan to remove Prima and take full control over the multiverse. The Dark Nebula consisted of three known upper gods: Varus, Nox, and Fastus. We do not know how long this war between the celestial gods has gone on for, and it is presumed that many upper gods on both sides have risen and fallen. But at a certain point, an upper god, presumably on Prima's side, named Aethra, was killed. Before their death, however, they were able to split their essence and formed the universe of Aethra. From this essence, four known lower gods of Aethra were born: Dice, the goddess of life; Ilrios, the god of the sun; Lunaris, the goddess of the moon; and Orbis, the god of nature. It is also presumed at this point that the lower gods Paradia, the god of technology, and Rekos, the god of spirits, and countless others were also created and formed planets of their own. The war between Prima and Nihilum would end with Prima's defeat. However, in order to preserve himself, he too, like Aethra, split himself into fragments and scattered himself throughout the multiverse in order to eventually revive. One of these fragments would embed itself into Orbis and take root in his body to form what would be later known as the World Tree. Nihilum eventually discovers Prima's plan and furiously orders the Dark Nebula to find all of the fragments of Prima and destroy them once and for all, as he cannot subsume control over the multiverse so long as a single fragment of Prima exists. Fastus discovers a Prima fragment embedded in Orbis of the Aethra universe. He decisively strikes Orbis down in order to extract the fragment. However, Orbis' sister Dice whisks Orbis' body away. Wrought with grief over the possible death of her brother, Dice gathers his essence, and from it formed the planet of Orbis. Fastus, having failed to destroy the fragment, alerts the Dark Nebula, who set their eyes on the universe of Aethra. Orbis' siblings prepare themselves against the Dark Nebula. Dice remains with Orbis to protect his body. Ilrios erects a barrier around the universe of Aethra itself, while Lunaris erects a barrier around Dice and Orbis as a second layer of defense. They inevitably engage the Dark Nebula and are able to hold them off to prolong the war. Unfortunately, during the conflict, Ilrios is deceived by Fastus, who is still stuck outside of the barrier. Fastus then orchestrates a plan to use Ilrios to destroy the fragment from within. Fastus commands the corrupted Illyrios to attack Dice and Orbis by sending the Archdemon onto the planet to locate the fragment and weaken its defenses in preparation for the Dark Nebula's arrival. Dice counters with her own champion, the Heir of the Covenant, alongside several Guardians, to fight against the Archdemon. She also bestows her power upon several individuals on the planet to assist in the battle. Lunaris would create the Nocturnes, Watchers of the World, to help Dice in Orbis's protection. Here, the stage would be set for what would be known as the Archdemon War. Ras, the Heir of the Covenant, would defeat the Archdemon many times with the help of his companions, but the corrupted Illyrios was persistent and continued to send more and more Archdemons until finally Ras was defeated. Dice, dismayed by both the loss of her champion and the unprecedented destruction left in the wake of multiple Archdemon attacks, used her power of life to reset the entire world and its denizens back to a point at which the Archdemon never existed, bringing all creatures and all peoples back to life, including her champion. Unfortunately, the mortal heirs that were given Dice's power would not be resurrected. Over and over, this cycle would continue, each time chipping away at Dice's limited strength, while Illyrios, being powered by the Dark Nebula, would continue to send Archdemon after Archdemon. Eventually, Dice would run out of strength, and restoring Orbis would no longer be an option. During the apex of the Sixth World, Ras and his companions Ruel, Kisei, and Vildred rushed towards the heart of the sanctuary, where Prima's fragment was buried deep into the ground. Once there, they would restore their strength and engage Archdemon Angrath head-on. Vildred, the general of the Ezran army, would selflessly sacrifice himself against the Archdemon's forces and the Acolytes to buy the others time. However, one of the Acolytes, Cheiron, implanted a part of the Archdemon's might into Vildred just before killing him, in order to allow some of his memories to leak into the next world. Ras, not knowing that he is now weaker due to Dice's waning power, engages the Archdemon and is soundly defeated, forcing Dice to restore Orbis for the 7th time. Suddenly, something bad happens. Dice's power begins to fade, and her power of resurrection begins to disappear, causing the Heir of the Covenant to remain dormant, even as the next Archdemon is sent to Orbis by Illyrios. Contrary to the prophecy passed down by the Church of the Goddess, the denizens of Orbis begin to panic, as their savior does not arrive as planned. The Church devises a plan to create a saint, an Heir of the Covenant replacement, to bolster their morale. They also devise a backup plan to create specialized mages who sacrifice their bodies for greater power to swing the tide against the Archdemon's forces. Diene, one of the failed saints, and Basque, her bodyguard, are able to convince the Nocturnes to lend them the power of Lunaris in order to seal the Archdemon away, at the expense of Basque and the Nocturnes' lives themselves. Diene would go on to become the Queen of Ezra after the previous king fled. The use of Lunaris' power through the sacrifice of the Nocturnes would spread into Illyrios, purifying him from Fastus's corruption, forcing Fastus to find a new method of influencing Orbis. He would travel to the world of Rekos, corrupt a holy knight named Straze, kill the god of the planet, Rekos himself, and then instruct him to travel to Orbis, where Fastus would continue his search for Prima's fragment alongside Straze, manifested through a magic sword. 20 years later, after the failed saint Diene, now queen, sealed the Archdemon away, the Heir of the Covenant finally awakens. And thus, our story begins.